Well, they weren't exactly matched up with one another. You are tracking it. When there is a 0.1 difference in the scoring race, and obviously Luka's sitting at number one, I got to do the math now, but it just feels to me like I think Giannis has now overtaken that second spot, and so there's a lot to it. When you have the number one team in the Western Conference coming in to Fiserv Forum, and there's just 12 games left in the season, it does matter a little bit more, and so there were so many different things on display. I think the leadership of the Stars, seeing what Chris Midleton brought, the defense like you alluded to, but there's no question. Today has been an awesome basketball day with my Marquette Golden Eagles getting her done, and now the Milwaukee Bucks just continuing that momentum.
I had you in there quicker to make the Marquette reference, but you never disappoint me, partner.
That's only 6 matches. We'll see how many more we can get in here.
All right, we got 4 segments, so stick around here on Bucks Live. But let's talk about the defense. It was the storyline of this game, Steve. Our Menard's big money moment. That third quarter, they held the Thunder to 17 points. That's their fewest they've scored in a third quarter this season.
And just look at the activity. Look at how much it seems to matter to all 5 guys on the court. Look at Dame moving his feet, scrapping, getting his hand there. Guys coming to back him up. Guys being in the right spots. And then all of a sudden, offense is flawless. It's simple. It's guys out on the break. And so you just got to love the fact that it started with defense, but it was also a little bit of offense. When you hold OKC in the third quarter to just 17 points, you can many times be the beneficiary of then scoring 34 points like they were. Look, even on air balls, you're in the right spot, making the unselfish right play. Bees is ready to shoot that thing in the corner. Look at how it's popping all the way around and paying it off on the other end. And there is no question. Look, when it starts out with, look at the energy, keeping the ball in bounds. Thrown it ahead, and guess what happens? You get the call, you get the and one, and the third quarter really was the separation that happened because it was the guys flying around on defense. It was a close game, and all of a sudden turning it into who wants it more. And in the third quarter, you could really sense it. So I do think when you look at it from a number 1 seed and a number 2 seed, because it's NCAA March Madness time, we'll call it that. Even though they're number 1 in the West, the Bucks are number 2 in the East. I think you could really feel what's the difference between these two teams. There was a maturity, there was a desperation. Yes, it's at home for Milwaukee. Yes, Chris Midleton is back, and the big three are back together playing. So there's a lot of things going for Milwaukee, but there's no doubt the Bucks have played some young teams in the West that people have said, can the Bucks keep up with those kind of teams? Do they have the energy? And there's no question they answered that tonight. I think with the way that they played, they were the team that was more desperate, that played with that, we've got to get this win, and we've got a point to make, even though you don't win anything for winning this game, but it's a barometer game, and I think you got a good feel as far as the barometer goes, kind of where this team is at right now.
Yeah, the Bucks outscored the Thunder 70-46 in the second half of this game. And just some perspective for you, Steve, because the Thunder came in as the only team in the NBA that were top 5 in field goal percentage, three-point percentage, and free throw percentage. Tonight, 37% field goal, 23% from 3, 77% from the free throw line. That's all well below their season averages.
You know, I think it just felt to me as you watched the game that it was very intentional. When you see Chet Holmgren struggle and go 1 for 10 from the field and go 0 for 5 from 3, you know that he is a guy who is being featured, and he's very intentionally being taken away. When you see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's the second leading scorer in this league, and we talked about in the pregame, this is the guy that's right behind Luka Doncic, has the second leading scorer, and he comes out and he was very quiet. And the truth is, it's all very intentional. And so to your point, too, about Doc Rivers, since he's taken over, the defense has gotten better. And so I think these are the kind of games where you go, some games you go, they did that to that team. It doesn't really count. Or that team, they're not that good. This is the number 1 team in the West that's been going around scoring a bunch of points, playing some big-time defense, and the numbers you just read off showing they've been a very consistent team, and the Bucks took them out of it. It's one game. There's a lot more to play for both teams, but there's no doubt this is a performance that you wanted to see from this Bucks team.
It's one game, and it's a big game because Chris Midleton was back in this lineup, and boy, did he have an entrance. His second career triple-double. He's standing by with Melanie Ricks.
Chris, congratulations on the win. First, we got to talk about this triple-double. Your second in your career, the first one since 2018. How did it feel?
That was cool. I'm just glad I got one more possession to get one more chance at it. Thankfully, I knocked down a shot. But, it's my teammates. They finished a lot of tough shots for me. The bigs were great down low, stealing their guy, getting in once, and just being big and dominant down there.
Well, and speaking of, what a dominant game from you and your teammates. That ball was really moving on a string tonight. What did this win say about your team moving forward?
It's just a good win against a good team. They're trying to play their best basketball. We're trying to do the same. So this is a great win. We just got to keep building on this for the rest of the season.
Thanks, Chris. Congrats.
Thanks.
Chris Midleton, one of 7 Bucks in double figures. His second career triple-double. A Hamish and Rotier. Numbers that work. Last one coming back on January of 2018.
Well, it's beautiful basketball, especially because he's out there doing it with Dame, with Giannis. He's being very much himself. You can tell he's comfortable, and that's the one thing I really sense is that look at some of the pass was just beautiful. The timing that he has in the pick and roll. He's willing to take chances. Will he have some turnovers? Yes, because he's willing to take chances and throw it up to Bobby Portis and throw it up to Giannis Antetokounmpo, and he's willing to show those guys, I want you to screen, I want you to roll hard. Have faith that I'm going to throw that thing to you. And so I love the way that he plays with his eyes always up. Always looking for a teammate. Can he always give a little shimmy shake and knock down a beautiful jumper? Yes, he can. But when you look at the last 3 games that he's had, 22 points in both of the previous 2 games, and now tonight to have a triple-double, it just seems to me that he's very comfortable out there in the offense. So I think as much has been said about making sure Giannis and Dame can get together and run that pick and roll and be as good of a pick and roll 2-man game as there possibly can be in the NBA. I think the other side of it is Chris Midleton looks very comfortable with those 2 out there on the floor together. And so there's no question it's going to continue to be an evolution, but Chris Middleton's showing some really good signs.
Yeah, just the 7th game this season that Chris has played under Doc, and just the 3rd time this year that the Bucks have had all of their preferred starters under Doc Rivers. And we're starting to see what those results look like as we inch toward the postseason. And Steve, it's amazing that we talk about Giannis at the end of this segment because he goes for 30 points, 19 rebounds. That's a season high for Giannis. Another impressive performance on both ends of the floor.
We'll call him well-rested because he rested, not last game, but the 2 games previous to that. He came out, he had 21 points against Brooklyn, and we said, well, kind of a quiet game for him. Well, he was saving his energy to get all these rebounds, 19 of them if you're keeping track. But some of the dunks that they're looking to face and makes, just the intensity he's playing with, it does matter. And so seeing the connection with Chris Middleton, seeing the swag that he's playing with, seeing the force that he was to be reckoned with when you look at the end of the night and you see how dominant this team was in the paint, 58-32 outscoring Oklahoma City by 26 points in the paint. It just makes you think, yes, this is the #1 team in the West. Yes, the Bucks are the #2 team in the East right now. For whatever that's worth, everyone's keeping track of those kind of things and what the seeding is going to look like. OKC doesn't look like a team that could ever get in the way. I realize they're in the Western Conference. They don't seem like the type of team that could get in the way of a Milwaukee Bucks type team. And by that, I mean this Bucks team is veteran. They've got Brook Lopez. They've got Giannis. They've got Dame. They've got Chris. They've got Jay Crowder. They've got these guys that, as good as OKC has been, and you got to tip your cap. For God's sakes, the record speaks for it in the Western Conference. It just didn't look to me tonight, and yes, it's 1 game in a long NBA season, that OKC team at #1 in the West was nearly as good as this Bucks team #2 in the East. Some of its maturity, no question. Shai Gilgeous is 25. Chet Holmgren is in his rookie year for all intents and purposes, and so I think it was good to see who the mature team was, who had the dominant MVP All-Stars. And in a game where it was an MVP match, it was fun to see Giannis, I felt like, have the much more dominant performance.
Yeah, it just felt like bully ball from the Bucks as a veteran team against the Thunder. 57 rebounds is a season high for Milwaukee. Of course, Giannis with a season high 19 and a season high 8 offensive rebounds in there. We're going to talk about the Bucks bench. Bobby leading the way coming up. Sargento donates $500 to Milwaukee's Habitat for Humanity for every tip-off the Bucks win. The Bucks have now won 38 tip-offs this season, totaling $19,000 for Habitat for Humanity. Stephen Watson, Steve Novak here from the Gruber Law Office's One Call That's All Sports Desk following this big Bucks win against the OKC Thunder. And Steve, we talked about the starters having the big 3 back, Giannis, Chris, and Dame, all factoring into this win. The defense playing a huge role. But how about this Bucks bench? 3 guys in double figures from the bench.
Well, and you mentioned, I think, in the pregame show, just how incredibly good the bench can be when you've got your starters out there. And that was very much the case. You've now got so many different guys that can come off. So when you're looking at the Bucks scoring 44 points, and you got Bobby Portis, who is the heart of the bench, scoring 15, and you got your guy Pat right behind him knocking down shots for 11 points. You have multiple guys in double digits, including Jay Crowder right there with 10 points off the bench as well. There's not a lot of teams that are going to be able to keep up with a Dame and a Giannis and a Chris Middleton going for a triple-double. And then you've got 3 more guys off the bench scoring in double figures. And so it's just very clear that guys understand their role. and not only understand it, I think that they're ready for it. They anticipate when they're going to play their minutes, when they're going to go out there, and then what their jobs are. And so I do think that is one of the major benefits of being a veteran team versus as we compare them to the Oklahoma City Thunder as a younger team. They're doing a heck of a job. But the Bucks, as far as veterans, they understand what they got to do when they come in the game, and it's very clear. Jay knows what he's doing. Bobby Portis knows his job. Pat Connaughton has been very versatile in the starting lineup and the bench, but he's one of those guys that with a full-strength team, he moves to the bench, and it only helps this team.
Yeah, the efficiency was really impressive from all three of those guys, shooting 50% or better from the floor, as the Bucks have now won 6 games in a row here at Fiserv Forum.